name is John Nine. I am a senior programmer here at the festival, and I have the honor of welcoming you to a really special film that our programming team loves, made by a Sundance filmmaker and making its world premiere last night at our Salt Lake celebration, making its Park City debut this morning, and that film is Train Dreams. This is a really beautiful, poetic adaptation of a novella by Dennis Johnson, who also wrote Jesus' Son, Tree of Smoke. And it is a rare magical creature of the film. For all of its grandeur, its epic quality, the setting of the rapidly expanding Pacific Northwest, this is at the same time this incredible, contained, intimate film. It has a really captive, poetic sensibility, and it has a philosophical disposition at its core. In telling the story of one man, Robert Grenier, and the way he experiences life, the nature and the changing times around him. It's an amazing cast, anchored by Joel Edgerton and his completely transfixing performance, and I'm happy to introduce you to the filmmakers. The director and the co-writer is Clint Bentley, whose film Jockey showed here in Sundance in 2021. It won a special jury prize for actor. It was released by Sony Classics. It picked up 2 Indie Spirit Awards. And as this is the case with Jockey and Train Dreams, it's co-written and produced by Greg Cuidar. And although you are here to see Train Dreams, I want to shout them out today as Oscar nominees for Best Original Screenplay for a film in which they reversed roles Simpson. The coolest part of welcoming the filmmakers here to the festival is that I said that Jockey played here in 2021, but it actually didn't play here in 2021. It played online as the pandemic forced us to be a virtual festival that year. So I'm going to ask you to channel the imaginary response of the 2021 audience and give him twice the raucous applause. Please welcome director and co-writer of Train Dreams, Clint Bentley. Thank you.
I am a ball of nerves, so thank you for that. And thank you for being here. Thanks for skipping church and everything else here on the Sunday morning. John, thank you so much. He did the intro for Jockey as well, and he just says such beautiful things that I'm like, I wish I had talked to you when we were editing the film so I knew what the film was about. I didn't think of those things. But thank you. Sundance, it's really special, as John said. Jockey was here, quote unquote, but we were all at home during the pandemic, and I think, like a lot of us in this industry, we go from like festival to festival, and this one's special, but sometimes they can feel like maybe a chore that you're going to a business, and I think I really just feel so grateful that we can all be in a room together and see all these incredible films that are at this festival. And I just want to thank Sundance and all the support that you've given us, and so many filmmakers, not only from the US, but from around the world. Especially as we're thinking about like what does the next chapter of Sundance look like, and it's just my hope, and I think for all of us, that it continues on for many, many decades to come, and holds the place that it has. I'm gonna not say much because I want you to actually watch the film, but it's always kind of odd to be one person standing up when a film is made for so many people and by so many people, and I just want to take a minute to thank some people who trusted me and believed in me even when I didn't believe in myself at times, and just took something that I hoped the film would be and made it so much better than anything I could have ever envisioned for it. Black Bear has been such an amazing producing partner to us. On not only Sing Sing, but this as well. Kamala Films, who trusted me with the book to adapt it. My closest friend and creative partner of over 15 years now, Greg Cuidar. And then we've got so much of our cast and crew that I would stand up here for 30 minutes to like talk about all of them, but I just want to say thank you all for being here and making the trip. And the film was really made on the backs of our crew who just made it so much better. Made it possible, honestly. And then our families also, they give so much for this. My wife Rachel, thank you. I want to say one thing. The film has an aspect of a wildfire in it, and I just want to acknowledge it for some of you who are here who've been affected by that. The film is ultimately one about healing and how we can come together to heal together. And if you are here from LA, know that we're with you and we're your community, and I hope that this film gives some measure of grace and healing through that. Thank you all for being here. This is Train Dreams.
Stage director and co-writer Clint Bentley.
Thank you. We've got some very special guests here with us as well that I'd like to bring out. We've got Joel Edgerton here with us. Clint Coen is here with us. I've got producers from back there, and Colin, please come down as well.
I want to start, Clint, if we can, with the source material, with the book, with the novella, because it has this quality of being poetic, non-chronological, but associative around the character, the themes, the rhythms, its preoccupations. And you both honor the spirit of that, but you also, I think, really create your own language, your own visual conception of that film. And I just want to start by, Dennis Johnson, an intimidating author to adapt. How did you go about deciding what you wanted to make of that story?
Yeah, thank you. It was there's something very magical and special about the book. If you haven't read it, it's like 117 pages long, and it just kind of jumps around all over the place. But yet, you get to the end of it, you read it in like 2 hours, and yet you feel like you've experienced an entire life. And that felt something like something very special to try and do with cinema. It was to try and see all these moments and feel all these moments and let them kind of feel them gliding past like they do in our lives. And how you look up and 5 years is gone, and these little moments that felt very simple at the time, and then you look back and you realize they kind of defined your life. And that just felt like something very kind of that felt like something nice to try and do. It's very fucking difficult. I didn't know how hard it would be as we got into it, but yeah, it was something beautiful and cool.
Well, it seems like one of the things, once you get into it too, the film takes on a life of its own, and some of the things that you would have shot in a certain way or written in a certain way. Because I know, when we saw it, it was very different beginning. It was a different, you have to rearrange it as it took on a life of its own.
And that was something that I don't know. It's just an aspect of I'm still very much learning how to make movies, but a big part of it I think is just listening to what the movie wants. And that's something that it's an iterative process in the script, and then in the filming, listening to what your actors and your team is pulling together. And then I have to shout out Parker Laramie, our editor, who's just a golden goose. And learning what the film needs, even in the edit, even up until a few weeks back.
Yeah. Joel, can I ask you, because one of the things was when I was writing the program, it's really hard to describe certain things to this character. There's something so elusive about what is going on, and your performance is incredible, but also you really try to read into it. So I'm just wondering, how did you find for yourself that thing that is so elusive? Because it can't be elusive to you, right?
Okay.
Maybe it can. I'm quite interested, and I have been interested watching characters that are not necessarily typically super proactive. You know, I do believe that probably a greater percentage of people in the world are moved by the world rather than move the world by their own will. And I'm really interested in the idea that some of us don't believe we have the power to change things around us. And we have to absorb terrible things and find a way to move on. And there's a silence to this character that I think a lot of people can relate to. And that, you know, I think the challenge was sort of finding that there's a lot of stuff in this film that really resonates with me, and particularly as a parent. And I think everybody, their greatest fears are in this story. And even though I'm an actor, I'm a logger. I mean, I'm now starting to think, how do I change my life to not be away from my kids? So I really related so much to this. And even though I feel like I'm in some ways a powerful person, I still feel like the world moves me around and that I don't have full control over things. But I think these guys did a marvelous job of laying out a screenplay where that was possible without too many words.
I'm going to take questions from you so that we can turn that house up on, but maybe for to us.
Well, first of all, good morning. This was quite emotional for me. In parentheses, I cried the whole time in the back of the theater. But, you know, my memories actually mostly were around just the writing process. And yes, I was terribly intimidated when we started with this work, but I think one of the things that allowed us to sort of start to find our own way, and for Clint to then sort of to find his voice within this, is that we actually wrote a large part of this up at Bonners Ferry, Idaho, where it's set in a little cabin on the Moye River that's in the movie itself, and where Dennis Johnson spent the end of his life and where he wrote this book too. And we would sort of drive around in the woods and listen to the audiobook of Train Dreams that Will Patton also narrates. And then we would sort of find ourselves in bars talking to loggers, and then go out into these camps and then find Kootenai people with a fish nursery and hold little sturgeon in our hands that look like little dinosaurs. And you're just looking back into the past, but you also feel like you're part of the great fabric of all things. And I think Clint just then was able to, well, actually, I just say, this is one of Clint's favorite authors, and I'd never read him before, and making this movie helped me understand my friend a little bit better. And maybe understand a little bit myself. I was in a really tough spot when we were writing the script, just in life, and kind of filled my cup back up a little bit. And I think that's what your character does and what your performance does too, and this sort of idea of like finding optimism again. And I just trust people more who have been knocked down on their ass, and then find belief in each other and find a way forward. And so I think that's what the movie speaks to me.
They're twins, actually, and they were perfect because one of them was super gregarious and just wanted to be in front of the camera and would do all the cute things that you saw. And then the other one didn't want to be around us at all and would always just walk away. And Joel and Felicity were phenomenal at just being like, all right, I guess that's what we're doing now. That's not how the scene was written. But, so they were, yeah, great.
Never work with animals or children. It's true, except I think the problem with it is people try and make them work. And you just got to work and follow them. And they're far more pure than any of us can be. And so part of the beauty of all those moments is that we just sort of were patient and let things happen and go, whatever it is going to happen, rather than expect children to live in an adult world or a chicken.
Chickens were the real stuff.
Other questions?
I don't know. It's a title of the book, Dennis Johnson. But I feel like there's something very evocative about it, of you know, this train being the symbol of the mechanization of the world and industrialization opening up this natural world, and it's this thing that it's blowing off smoke and it's mechanical and it's shooting off sparks, and it's like kind of forcing its way through a much softer world, a world of trees and wind. And so I don't know why Dennis picked the title, but I think he did a good job.
Yes.
Dreams, the sequel.
Yeah, and the great hat.
Congratulations on the film. Very, very beautiful. The score was obviously so integral to the film, and I was wondering if you could just talk about working with Bryce on that.
Yeah, this is our fourth film with Bryce, and he just does such an amazing job of he's got these classical chops, but he's also in the national, and then he writes a lot of beautiful scores. And I think going back to your question, John, about like making things new, there was a lot about like, I didn't want it to feel like a period piece where you're like going back to another time, and something Joel articulated very well is like, we're all the same and we've always been the same, and just wanted people to feel like this kind of newness of the world, because we do live in a very magical place, and just feel like, oh, this is a story that happens to be set another time. All that to say with Bryce, he does this beautiful job of like taking some elements from maybe earlier instrumentation and orchestration, but making it feel very new, and he's amazing. It's a good question, and yeah, you mentioned the imagery, and I think it's worth giving a round of applause to Adolfo Veloso, our cinematographer. I think the question is about his daughter coming back, and I don't necessarily want to answer it in a way of saying it did happen or it didn't. And I think the narrator kind of stepping in and saying, that it felt as real to him as anything else that had happened in the world, in his life, even as he wondered if it had really happened. And I think that's about as close as I can get to it. Whether it actually happened and it was a feral child that came up and he felt like it looked like his daughter, or whether it was his daughter, or whether it was just a figment of his imagination, it seemed like something that he needed to kind of move on in a way.
I was saying to these guys, everyone, I just flew out from Sydney. Everyone in New South Wales, where I come from, we experience these kinds of things every few years, it seems, and New South Wales, and then a couple of years later it's California, but never this sort of experience that we've just seen. These things, they really break me up. I remember having bags ready to go when I was a kid because of the area that I grew up in. I do think this movie is about today as much as it is the past, and I do believe none of us really change, and we have phones and we have all these like creature comforts and technology, but I think we all want and yearn for the same things, and we get knocked down by the same things over and over and over again. And we're always resilient to it, and we live on. And one of the reasons I got involved in the film is because I believe life is worth living. I think that it's a mix of some really great things and some really not great things. It's long, but it's actually really short. And it's significant and it's insignificant. We'll get forgotten about most of us, but we all did something, hopefully good, But I think the great thing is about our resilience and the way we actually, at the bottom of everything, we really, really think of each other. We have an instinct to look after each other and to be mindful of each other despite all the other not so great things going on.
Really so happy to have us on here to elicit these questions, and thank you all for the thoughtful.
Hey, this is Eric from IONCINEMA.com. If you want to support us, subscribe below. For more reviews, interviews, film festival coverage from Sundance, Cannes, Toronto, you want to check out these guys on this side.